everyone, and welcome to New Trials of Podcast. I'm Preya.
And I'm Melanie.
The New Trials of Captor Sakura, Syaoran, and Friends is a popular ongoing fanfic by Wishluv, and it's based off of Crime's Captor Sakura. And in each episode, we'll do a deep dive of a chapter. Let's get into it. So, question for you, Melanie. What is your most spur-of-the-moment trip?
Gosh, I might need to think on that for a second. How about you?
Okay, so shortly after I came back from Kansas, my boyfriend and we went to Vermont, and that trip was planned because he just got his American passport back and he renewed it. So it's like, okay, woohoo, let's go traveling. So we went to Vermont. We had a good time, but there was some of his cousins that weren't there, who's always there when he's there, and their names are Peter and Lucille. And they're a couple, I want to say they're 80s and 90s. And the reason that they weren't there is because Lucille recently fell, so she can't drive, and they're kind of homebound. So it was the week before, I think it was like only 1 week. So between Vermont and that trip that we went on, we decided to go because it was a Quebec holiday, Saint Jean Baptiste, and it's like, you know what? This is a couple in their 80s/90s. We don't know how long they'll be here. Let's just see if they're free to have us, and let's go on this trip. So we called ahead. They were more than happy to receive us. So we drove to Boston, had a great time, got to meet them, spend time with them. They were so happy to see Cameron because they haven't seen him since 2018, a couple of years before the pandemic. So it was a very spur of the moment trip. It was definitely worth it, and they absolutely loved us, and it was really nice to see them.
I was super jealous because she got to go to Salem, and I've always have wanted to go to Salem. So when she was sending me pictures, I was like beside myself in joy. Plus, I love Hocus Pocus. That's true. Yeah, because she did this trip, it inspired me to go on my own trip to Salem. So my husband and I are actually going to go next April. Yeah. Okay, so I thought about it. So the one that I think kind of comes close is, so at the end of basically the whole year of 2021, I had left a job that I had been at for 6 years. I actually really liked that job, but I thought I wanted a management role. So I went and worked for this company, and I had probably one of the worst years of my life, mental health wise. Like, it was a really hard year for me. But one of the upsides is we ended up buying a house that same year, like a newer house, nicer, bigger house in November. So here we had just spent this money for this new house and stuff, but I was still I was still really just anxious and not having a good year. And Pete could tell that I was just not my usual happy self. And he was like, do you just want to go to Harry Potter in Orlando? And I remember he just asked me randomly when we were walking up the steps of our basement one day, and I just turned around and I was like, what? He said, let's go to Harry Potter next month. Let's just go. And so we did. And I mean, it was like maybe 3 weeks notice, but yeah, we went and did like a very impromptu trip down to Florida. And normally when we go to Florida, we usually go to both Disney and Universal. It's at least like a week or 2 week vacation because I just love being there. But this was the first time we ever literally just went for just a couple days, just him and I. And it was 100% what I needed for my mental health. And honestly, it kind of gave me the clarity to leave that job and then kind of go into the research aspect, which is where I'm at now. And I mean, no job is perfect, but I am 100% more happier than what I was.
That's an awesome story. I'm really glad that Pete was really able to identify and rectify.
He's a good one. I told him when we got married, I said, I'm not the type of person. I don't need you to take me to 5-star all-inclusive resorts. I don't need that. Just take me to Disney every couple years and I will be happy for the rest of my life. So for today's Alliance of the Stars, we actually have a couple comments from Carolina and then one comment from Cheryl Barrow. So starting off with Carolina on chapter 25, the podcast, Carolina commented, "Hello again, girls. As always, I had a lot of fun listening to you. I love Malin's growth throughout NT. She becomes more mature, realistic, and honest with herself. Despite her heartbreak, she always tries to make Syaoran come to his senses and be honest about his feelings." So good and so true. So very, very true.
We love Malin.
And then on chapter 27, she commented, I love this chapter, but it's a roller coaster of emotions. Syaoran taking Sakura for a walk. It made me smile. Syaoran heroically saving Sakura took my breath away. Then both looking at each other and him feeling very attracted to Sakura. Moment of tension and expectation. Then midnight interrupts the moment, which provoked a frustrated growl in me. Syaoran's jealousy and the fact that he admits very indirectly that it bothers him to see Sakura with Aaron, it was a good consolation. And that confession from Sakura right at the end, again. Anyway, I loved hearing you again, girls, as always.
I think chapter 27 took a lot of people by surprise.
Yes. And yeah, and if you guys did not read Wish Chan's little Easter egg about that scene that we mentioned, highly recommend. And then lastly, Shara Barrow sent us an Instagram message and she said, "Hi ladies, loving the Arc 2 audiobook chapters in Kaido Magician's voice. Also the fact that you're together doing the podcast, I can almost feel your BFF vibes. On your last podcast, you asked about naming in Cantonese and Mandarin, but people in Hong Kong speak Cantonese. The L's are, the L's are pronounced as L's, so Mei Lin is correct. Syaoran is Lane. However, they are in Japan, so maybe that's where the L pronounced as R comes from. I don't know. Someone else may be able to speak to that." Interesting. So she's saying his name should be Xiao Lane, which makes sense, but it comes off as Syaoran because it's Japanese saying it. Interesting. Thank you for that insight, Shara Barrow.
Yeah. Like, and that really goes to explain the various names that we saw in like CCS fan fiction in their heyday. There was just so many different pronunciations, and then you have his like Chinese name, like Xiao. I want to just say Xiao Lane. Even yeah. No, it makes total sense.
Hello, hi, Editing Melanie here. Just popping in real fast to say that I completely forgot to include the comments from Diana from chapter 11 in our Diana special that we released yesterday. And so I didn't want to make this Alliance part right here super long. So if you would like to hear her comments on chapter 11, please be sure to stick around to the end of the podcast. All right, back to the episode.
So today we'll be discussing chapter 30, Lone Thief of the Night. This chapter was released on May 4th, 2001. The word count is 13,278 words, and everyone's in the 9th grade, and it's officially July. School is out, and summer is here. Now for the summary. Kaito was shot by the police. In England, Ariel, Miho, and the Guardians decided to spend the summer in Japan. On the last day of school, Syaoran gave Sakura her forgotten lunch from behind the bush, but her friends still noticed her and Syaoran's strange behavior. That night, Syaoran was being sweet, and he told Sakura that he'd take her out, since that's what she would do with her family. They received a call from a worried Meilin, who asked them if Kaito was safe. Once she hung up, Sakura and Syaoran learned that the police were on Kaito's trail. They heard sirens, and Kaito dropped in. Sakura was shocked that he said he was shot. He told them that the police have a tracker on him, but Syaoran warded off the apartment from the trackers, and he and Sakura tricked the police by using the invisible Onkai. Kaito told them that he was still collecting the treasures. This was his cue to take the diamond and the sapphire. And he went to Hong Kong to attempt to steal, but couldn't as Mei Lin protected it, the truth by sword that was sent back with Malin. The Hong Kong police attached the microchip to his locket, which was the key to his identity. Discarding it was impossible, as the ruby inside could be the treasure, and if the police found it, they might expose his true self. Malin smuggled him out of the country so that he can go to Japan, but the police in Japan found him and shot him, which was when he came to Syaoran's. Sakura told him to stay with them, and her sympathy shocked Kaito. The next day, Kaito tried to leave, but Sakura kept him around with breakfast. She went to the theater in school to retrieve a picture of Nadeshiko and Ririn, and she ran into Aaron. He almost kissed her, but pretended to smell her perfume instead. Aaron met up with Erika, who called the police to reveal Kaito's whereabouts. Syaoran felt that a barrier broke, and at the theater, Sakura opened the basement door and the phantom was set free. Unbeknownst to her, it was the work of the twins. When she got back, the apartment showed signs of a fight, and both Kaito and Syaoran knew she met Aaron. The police was after Kaito again, who said that the owner of the Mirror of Truth designed the microchip. Sakura convinced Kaito to leave the locket with her, which freed him to go to the hospital. He left behind the diamond and the sapphire as well. Sakura and Syaoran then left for Tokyo on the Unicorn to find the person against Kaito to remove the microchip. Syaoran told Sakura that if he wasn't the chosen one sent to Japan, or even the thief, he would still have found Sakura, and this led her believe that there was more that connected her to Syaoran than any of the cards. Finally, at the hospital, Kaito concocted a story about being a French ambassador's son who took a billet for the French prime minister, and then he slept with no worries after his operation. All right. These summaries are getting longer and longer, Wish-chan. Okay, diving into it, I love the sound effects. I think you really outdid yourself with the opening scene. It, like, really set the stage.
Thank you. I was pretty proud of this one.
So I love that we got to check in with the England crew. And my favorite voices, as always, are Ariel and Soupy.
Thank you.
So there's a plot hole. Ariel is wearing his glasses again, even though in New York he told Sakura that he had laser eye surgery. But if we want to explain this away, we can just say that, like, he could be one of those hipsters who wears the frames without the lenses.
I thought he just said he was wearing contacts.
No, he's actually in Arc 1. He literally said laser eye surgery.
Oh, well, putting on my ophthalmology medical hat. So sometimes, not always, you can have a regression of your LASIK. So maybe that could be what happened. Maybe his LASIK regressed a little bit. So now he's still he's just like a -1. He just pops on some glasses just for, hipster sake. That's what we'll go with.
So in a previous episode, I was actually wondering if Kiro-chan would be of any help. And I love that in this chapter, you pretty much confirmed what I was thinking.
Yes, exactly. So okay. So we know Toya and Yukito are there for school.
Yes.
Right? So do you think it's like a summer internship thing they're doing? Or
it could be an exchange program.
Does that take place during summer? I don't know, because I don't know anyone over in the UK, so I'm not for sure.
Like, because at least in Canada, summer school is a thing. And it's not the same thing like in high school. Like back in high school, when kids would go to summer school, it's because they failed their classes in their current grade and they want to make it up to join their classmates for the next grade. But once you get to college, there's like winter classes, because at least in our college, we had like literally a month of vacation, and there would be like condensed classes during the winter month. And then in the summer month, there'd be condensed summer. Like for example, one year I had a couple of friends who were taking French in the summer to like ease their course load for the next semester. And I did it with them. So at least here in Canada, there are definitely the option of summer classes. And that's either to graduate earlier or to ease your course load. So like, just because it's summer doesn't mean that school's out.
Yeah. Okay. That's true. I can see that.
So in Japan, everyone is excited about their upcoming summer vacation. And we get a mention of hold on, I'm not going to say this right. Itoku?
I say Itoko, but
yeah, Itoko. Yeah.
Same thing.
I think this is the first time that the school is mentioned.
Yes. And did you know that this is an Easter egg?
Ooh.
So there is a famous manga called Hana Yori Dango, and otherwise known as Boys Over Flowers, otherwise known as Meteor Garden, whatever. And the elite school that it takes place in, that's for like all these rich kids, is Itoko.
Nice. That's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So we get the aforementioned scene of Syaoran hiding behind the bush and giving Sakura her lunch. I thought that was so funny, but I thought Sakura's friends interrogating her was even funnier.
I was a little like surprised that Syaoran got so mad at his friends though.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you know, with him being as protective as he is about her, you know, I could just see him owning it and just be like, yeah, I gave her food. What you gonna do about it? You gonna beat me up? I'm Lee Syaoran. No, you're not.
It's like when the girls were teasing Sakura, you could see that's like all in good fun, and you could just see the big old sweat drop in the side of her head. But Syaoran kind of had a bit of a blowout. Okay, we get to the soccer game, and I think it's pretty petty that Syaoran and Aaron weren't working together. And actually, that scene reminds me of an Arc 4 fan art. I don't know if you remember it, but basically, yeah. So you have Syaoran on one end, Aaron on the other end, and you have cheerleader Sakura in the middle.
I love that fan art. It's one of my favorites.
The game ends, and we get a line about Sakura's broken shoelace being bad luck. And like, on one hand, it made me think of Kaitu's predicament. But now that I've reread the summary, I'm like, oh, this could also be foreshadowing about the Phantom's escape.
Oh, I never thought of that.
Yeah, it just came to me because it's like the chapter is so long that the bad omens are in the beginning, and then whoosh, there goes the Phantom, and the whole chapter is all about Kaitu's predicaments. But I think that's just Wish-chan foreshadowing all of the pain and heartache that the Phantom is going to bring.
Holy moly. Well, so what I wanted to ask you about this section in particular is, are there any superstitions that like you really believe in and you're really careful about?
I know my mother told me not to like swing my legs under the table. I don't know if that's so much like superstition as bad manners. When I was little, I did the thing of like not stepping on cracks. I know some people who like throw salt over their shoulder if they knock down the salt shaker. I've never done that, but I've seen people do that. And I just think in general, you don't want to jinx things, right? It's if you have something going on and you don't know if it's going to happen for sure, you don't want to talk about it until it's like a sure thing. So I think there's that, even though I don't know if that categorizes as bad luck or not. How about you?
The main one I really do almost constantly is my grandma always said, purse on the floor, money out the door. So I never, ever put my purse on the floor ever. So even if I go out and it's like, I don't have space for it, I'll still keep my purse on my lap, or I'll even squish it next to me. I will never put my purse on the floor. And like, I don't know. That's just something that's always stuck with me ever since I was little.
You know what? My coworker Gurdeep, she's Indian, and she was brought up the exact same way. And not only that, but she just told me the other day, it's like, you don't put books on the floor because books is knowledge, and putting it on the floor is disrespectful for the knowledge. So you don't put books on the floor.
And then the other one is, it's kind of a witchy one, sort of, but like if a broom falls in your house, it means you're going to have like a visitor. Or sometimes if your palm itches, like your main palm, if it itches, means you're going to be having to give money away. Whereas if your other palm itches, it means you're going to be receiving money. And also just for sake, Wish Chan mentions here pretty soon in the chapter of Sakura saw 13 crows flying. So that one, I know the magpie one, but the crow one, and I know the magpie one up to 9, but the 13 crows one, I looked at that and it said, seeing 13 crows mean it's over. It's the end of an era. If your loved ones had been sickening consecutively, this could be coming to an end. So how I would interpret that for this chapter is it was the end of an era of keeping the phantom contained. And now, so I think it does go with what you were saying earlier, that instead of alluding to Kai, it's actually alluding to the phantom. So I agree with you.
Very, very interesting. Huh. That's I've never really thought about those scenes in that sense before. This is very cool. So before the scene ended, I also liked the callback to Syaoran's injury with the whip, like when everybody was slapping his back.
Yes. Again, I appreciate that Wish Chan keeps continuity going because especially an injury that big would absolutely not be healed by then. So bravo, Wish Chan.
So we get some arc 2 sweetness when Syaoran was tending to Sakura's burnt finger. And then we get a promise that Sakura had Syaoran promise her a 5-star dinner with something fun afterwards. So that was really cute. So, and now this is where we get the scene with the 13 black crows as previously discussed. So this part of the chapter is when Melin calls, and aside from the fact that Sakura should know better than to answer Syaoran's phone,
right.
I'm like, didn't you learn anything from Erica? And it's like, that gave you so much anxiety, and now you're still going to answer Syaoran's phone? Anyway, aside from the facts, it's always great to hear from Melin, but she doesn't seem to be her cheery self. And then that's when she relieves that Kaito was in Hong Kong, and she just wanted reassurance that he was okay. But right now they're doing like no news is good. No news is hopefully good news. And here we have Melin caring about Kai. That's what we like to see.
I feel like it's our first kind of nudge in that direction, you know, basically. And oh, I'm so excited to see it.
So this little conversation inspired Sakura to watch the news. And then there was an actual report about him. And love that you got to flex your news anchor voice again.
Thank you.
So that's when we get a lot of the police cars at Sharon's apartment, and Sakura finds Kaito on the balcony. And we learn that he's being tracked and he's injured. And I thought it was really cool the way Syaoran used ward paper to throw off the signal, and Sakura, like, they hid Kaito. It's like they know he's a criminal, but like, come on, let's just call him a friend.
Yeah, I just think that's them just being able just to read people so well, especially on Sakura's part, that she just knows he's automatically a good person, you know?
Yeah. So once the police left, that's when Kaito, I thought it was really funny when he got the ring and the necklace back. It's like, hey. And then he talked about collecting the Five Forest treasures. And we learned that Syaoran sent the sword back with Melin to Hong Kong. And Kaito then talked about his run-in with Melin. I thought it was funny. Like, I didn't see that happening at all. Like, I knew it happened, but that little like bait and switch, that was pretty cool on the Lee Clan parts.
Yes. Yeah. Very interesting.
So then we get the next most important item in New Trials after the Five Forest treasures, which is the locket.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't remember the background, but I think that it was a gift from Ryuichi to Mayura. And even though I don't know if it was confirmed in canon, there was definite discussion about how the red stone in the locket definitely is the same ruby that made up the Chang earrings.
Oh, I thought thought he was just blowing air out of his booty.
No, I think I can't remember if this is canon or not because we definitely talked about it in the Yahoo group, that's for sure. But like I feel like it is. And I have a feeling that Wish Chan probably confirmed it too, but I can't give you that source. So Kaiju actually uses the excuse of holding on to the locket because it's a treasure adjacent, but in actuality, we're going to find out that it's the last piece of his old identity. And even if he ditches it, the cops will find it and use it to identify him.
Mm.
It's like we didn't realize how important the locket was when we first started reading New Trials, and then the fact that it unlocks that he has a sister and everything. I'm really looking forward to getting there.
Yes, and I think it's pretty cool that Sakura gets to come to the revelation pretty much before anybody, and then everyone's shocked when she's known for so long. And she's like, "It wasn't my place to say anything," you know?
Yeah. I thought it was so sad hearing Kaiju talking about the police closing in on him, and it makes sense that they had him spend the night. Like, you know, SNS had him spend the night but when he decides to stay for breakfast instead of sneaking out, I thought that was really cute, especially when like he drops signs of the time, Sony Discman, a Motorola cell phone. I laughed so much when I saw the Sony Discman and Motorola cell phone, just like whoops.
I did not catch that at all. That is hilarious.
Yeah, he was like gonna get out the window, and Sakura's like, "I have breakfast," and he's like, "Ooh, breakfast!" and drop, and Syaoran's like, "Hey."
Oh, that's hilarious. And then I remember going, "And hair gel?" Like,
yeah, that's true. Hair gel is there too. That's timeless. But the Sony Discman and the Motorola cell phone, oh my God, flip phones, RIP.
oh, hilarious. It was so funny.
So Sakura makes a pit stop at the school and runs into Moyo at the theater. And the item that she went to go get was the photo of Nadeshiko and Ryuran during the Phantom of the Opera musical. And that's when she runs into Aaron, which was really random and surprising. And I didn't realize it was an almost kiss. I was kind of like gullible enough to believe that he was just smelling her perfume. But like at the end of the day, it's creepy and random.
Yes, I think it's so creepy. And it's not like maybe this is seeing this through 2023 lenses, but it doesn't seem very consenty to me either. The fact that they're alone and he's kind of like creeping up on her. Like, I do not like that scene. Like,
No. And I was actually surprised when we ended up following Aaron, and then he meets with Erica, and then she decides to be funny and calls the police to reveal Kaitu's whereabouts. We're back at Syaoran's, and Kaitu is teasing him about living alone with Sakura, and that's when Syaoran felt the Phantom's bond to the theater break. And at school, Sakura experiences firsthand. And then the Phantom Menace, haha, officially begins.
I appreciated the Star Wars joke.
Sakura gets back, and it's clear that Syaoran and Kaitu can't play nicely. And then somehow Kaitu describes her run-in with Aaron to a T. It's like, this boy is very perceptive.
I almost kind of picture Kai, because, you know, Kai really is like a genius. He's so smart. I almost kind of picture him like Sherlock. You know how Sherlock can look at someone and be like, you smell this way, so I know you went to this certain coffee shop this morning, and one of your soles on your shoe is worn more than the other, so that tells me you walk this way. Like, that's kind of what I saw Kai doing in that moment, that he looked at different, and I think magicians do that in general, you know, they look at different cues and can kind of just put together a puzzle piece, you know.
Oh, I love that theory. It's like we knew that he learned a lot from Mayura, but he also learned a lot from the original Kaitu magician, Kara's father. So I bet that's where he picked it up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's revealed why Kaito is such a target when he explains that a suit was filed against him, and now the police have a lot more resources to double down on him. And he knows very well who filed it, but he didn't want to hurt Sakura's feelings since it's dun da da her paternal grandfather.
Which I will admit, when I first read this, I also didn't pick up on what it was at all. And I remember just being, we'll get to it next when we get there, but I just remember being so shocked, you know? So I was kind of like Sakura. I was like, oh, you must have forgot it.
Yeah, like I had a feeling that as you were reading it, you probably wouldn't have remembered, but I also know for a fact that you're pretty ahead with your audiobook chapters. So by now, during this conversation, you know what's up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
So Sakura implores Kaito to leave the locket with her, and he was super reluctant. But she makes a very convincing argument when she points out that everyone is in as much danger as he is, and that the treasures were just important to her, all for the sake of Kaito going to the hospital. And I really feel this was a huge step for him.
Yes, agreed. For all of them, really. A huge step for their friendship and trust. And this really sets the foundation for their future relationship together.
Yeah, I know. Because it's like Kai, he's so used to being a one-man show, trust no one. It's like nobody has his back. And now all of a sudden there's like a team forming around him, and he's not used to this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So after Kaito left, Sakura announced to Syaoran that she was going to go to Tokyo to figure out how to free the microchip from the locket and to find out who was behind the suit. And I love how Syaoran reluctantly agrees, even though he knew he could never let it go alone. It's like there's no way that Sakura is going to do this alone. He's going to be with her, but he's like, fine, I'll go with you. Now, since the building was surrounded by police, they had to zip line to the next building. And I thought that Wish-chan made up that skill, but then she makes a reference to the time card episode when he scaled the clock tower. And I forgot about that.
Me too. I remember when I read it for the audiobook, I was like, oh, that's a new skill we've never seen. And then literally like 2 sentences later, she was like citing her sources basically. And I remember I had to pause the audiobook and be like, what?
I love any little nod to canon TCS that we can get in New Trials.
Mm-hmm.
So Midnight Star makes a comeback and brings them to Tokyo. Now we get a quote that I really like from this chapter that I kind of butchered in my summary. So here you go, folks. Even if I wasn't the chosen one, and even if I wasn't sent to Japan, even if I was a thief, I think, no, I know I would still have found you eventually. And then like this line, it actually made me think of that fan art that you did, Melanie. It was the AU where Sakura has her scarf and it's stuck on Sharon's backpack, and her scarf is red and the thread is unraveled and hooked onto his backpack. So it's the Red String of Faith, AU, SNS.
Yes. Thank you for mentioning that. I do remember that.
Yes. So I know that at the end of Arc 3, Kaito gets hospital care from the Lee clan in exchange for the 5-4 sword. But I couldn't remember whether or not he received treatment beforehand until the end of this chapter. So I really like his like story. It was very funny. Now your version of his dramatic retelling was perfect. My only note is for the French is that you're rolling your R's instead of like growling it like we talked about. So instead of bonjour, mademoiselle, vous êtes très, très belle. It would be more like bonjour, mademoiselle, vous êtes très belle. So instead of r.
All right, let's do it. So, okay, let's do a French lesson. So, mais oui.
May we?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Bonjour.
Yes,
it's so hard for me not to roll my R's. Bonjour, mademoiselle. Vous êtes belle.
Yeah. Bonjour, mademoiselle, vous êtes très belle. And to be fair, there was no accent circonflexe on the E, so you didn't pronounce it like et. And then in French, we have something called liaison, where you take the last letter of a word and then you kind of add it to the next letter if it's a vowel. So instead of vous êtes, it's more like vous êtes. Yes, French is funny.
Oh man, it took everything in me, like because I knew, because I was just like, oh, Priya, when I read it, and then I was like, wonder if I just turned it to Spanish, but I was like, no, then it wouldn't be original to the R, because I could be like, Trequero.
No, in the end, like
Hola,
Kaitu is supposed to
señorita.
say, Bonjour, mademoiselle, vous êtes très belle. And you got
Et tu très bonita.
très bonita. And you got close with voler. It's actually voleur. Voleur.
Volaja.
Voleur.
Volar. Okay, so besides Priya, I would just like to apologize to all our French speakers. From here on out, I'm going to try my best, but I am so Spanish focused and I can pronounce anything in Japanese for some reason, but like, I just can't.
You don't have to be so hard on yourself. Those R's are tricky, and honestly, if I wasn't from here, I definitely wouldn't get it either, because I never knew another language to like gargle their R's like that. Bonjour.
I just can't wrap my brain around it. Like, because I'm so used to like anytime you see an R in Spanish, like you very much pronounce it. So it's hard for me not to do that. Oh, that's so funny. Anyway.
and that's the end of the chapter with Kaitu just being like at peace, not worrying about what the next day would bring, just resting, relaxing. That's what we want for our Magician of the Night. Okay, moving on to Dark Horse's Corner. Who needs air conditioning when you have Windy? So that's what a super hot Sakura and Syaoran did to cool themselves off. We also got to see the Invisible, which was used to hide Kaitu. The heal card was used, but Sakura didn't have enough magic to heal a gunshot wound, but it did make Kaitu feel better. And finally, the unicorn was released to originally just to bring them to the train station, but Midnight Star said he was more than ready to bring them to Tokyo.
Such a good horsey.
I know, we love Midnight Star. Moving on to Fan Art Spotlight. This is going to be a duo. So we have Meilin Ready to Fight by Serenity Shiro, and we also have Kai Poised, also by Serenity Shiroi. She actually posted on the same day, but she drew Meilin first, and she liked it so much that she drew Kai. And this was pretty much based off the scene of when Kai was telling his story, and he said, I went to Hong Kong. I could locate the Lee main house easily thanks to the microchip I attached onto Meilin's bracelet. Yet it turned out that the little Chinese girl wouldn't give up the sword so easily. I had some trouble, to put it mildly. So Serenity, she drew Meilin, who is like, nah, you're not getting anything. And then you have Kai. It's like, oh, it's like being the thief of the night that he is.
So cute. I love it. All right. And then this one's going to be an interesting author's note, guys. Let me get in my audiobook persona. Hold on. Okay. Wish-chan. Long chapter, nay. I'm really busy these days, but still, I finished this chapter. Wish-chan. So, Xiao-chan, why are you being nice to Sakura-chan all of a sudden? Xiao-chan. What do you mean? Wish-chan, don't pull that innocent, I don't know what you're talking about face on me. I know you better. Syaoran-chan, it's nothing. I just don't want her to feel lonely because her brother's away in England and her father's on college lecture tour. Even the stuffed animal's away. Sakura isn't used to being alone. I don't want her to go through what I've gone through. Wish-chan, dabbing tissues on her eyes. Poor Xiao-chan. Such a sad childhood. No wonder you were so lonely and solitary and mean to Sakura-chan when you first came to Japan, but now... Xiao-chan, shut up. I don't want your sympathy. I just don't want Sakura to feel sad or lonely. That's all. Wish-chan, aw, how sweet. You're so caring for her. Xiao-chan, I said it's nothing. Wish-chan, yeah, whatever. End of interview. Anyway, so Kaido-kun came back. Told you he would. He wasn't away for that long, huh? As you can tell, this chapter is just kind of like the beginning to the CCS Cruise summer adventure. Look forward to the coming chapters. Oh yeah, if anyone remembers, long ago, Sakura saw in the Mirror of Truth how one day Kaido Magician was surrounded by police and shot by a gun. Poor Kaido-kun. I always have a soft spot for thieves. Not all, but the anime type. Also, people have been saying that Kaido and Mei Lin should go together. Let's see, Evil Grin. I'm still interested in hearing your opinions on couple arrangements in new trials. And also just wondering, do you guys want to hear more about Iro-kun immediately or eventually? Finally, how come I already jumped to summer vacation? Because I wanna. Next chapter, SNS in action in Tokyo. Hee. The city is always exciting, still lots of confusing stuff and lots of mysteries. That's my plan. Hee. Next chapter might have some twist.
Ooh, watching you voice Syaoran in like real time was a delight.
That like I felt very put on the spot, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna have to just do it.
Oh my gosh, that's super cool. Yeah. So, just to jump ahead a bit, so the next chapter we are going to be covering Syaoran's birthday special, and even though it's kind of weird because it's one of those 0.5 chapters, just to let you know that it takes place in the middle of chapter 30. So even though we're supposed to be going to Tokyo now, we're just gonna hold off a little bit, enjoy Syaoran's birthday, and then continue with our Tokyo trip.
Which, spoiler alert, his birthday special was a whole lot longer than what I remember it being.
But for now, you have been listening to New Trials the podcast, where it must rain for there to be a rainbow.
You've been listening to New Trials the podcast. Please be sure to check out the audiobook version of this fanfiction that you can find anywhere that you can find this podcast. Also, please be sure to check out the Facebook fan page for New Trials, where a big part of our discussions happen nowadays. And be sure to stick around next week when we discuss Syaoran Special, Small Wolf's Most Precious Birthday. All right, so next up we have Diana's comment on chapter 11, and that is our least favorite chapter, so hard to say goodbye to yesterday. And her comment was, this chapter. It doesn't matter how many years have passed, it just doesn't get any easier to read. Takashi and Chiharu were such a warm highlight in this chapter. Who knows how much this would be needed after Syaoran's coldness and meanness. Chapters like these make me want to jump into the story and knock some sense into him. But I know why this is needed. As much as I feel for Sakura, I really enjoyed the little moments between Sakura and Toya. Their interactions are usually filled with comedy and annoyance due to sibling protectiveness and bickering. But this was a nice change. I wish we had more of these scenes. Thank you for sharing. Till next time.
Oh, Diana, you and us both. We wanted to wring that Syaoran's neck.
I still do.
And I really like how she touched on the Toya Sakura scene, because it's like, even now, thinking back on it, it was a really nice scene between the siblings, and they're really few and far between.
Agreed.
Oh, this chapter. It's so cold. Minus the sound effects, Tomoyo cheering for Sakura, and Takashi x Chiharu moments. I remember reading this chapter for the first time. I was visiting my father, and I was reading this chapter on my cell phone. I felt so bad for Sakura that my chest actually hurt. My father, who isn't known for accurately picking up on people's moods, noticed that I wasn't in a good mood. And while I don't remember if I heard the Boys to Men song before or after talking to him, I do remember telling him that there was a song from a group he didn't know. To my great surprise, he got excited and told me that he did, in fact, know Boys to Men. He started to tell me how popular they were with his female classmates back when he was in school, despite the language barrier. Some guys tried to emulate them to get the girls' attention. I don't remember whether he shared if he did that or not. He then told me my mother used to have one of their CDs. I knew she liked NSYNC, since I had stolen her CD from my CD player, but hadn't know about Boys to Men. Flash forward a few years, and I'm singing to End of the Road from Boys to Men because of the Fresh Off the Boat. Imagine my mother's shock when she heard me singing, if what I do can be called singing. I think we started talking about them, New Kids on the Block, New Edition, Backstreet Boys, and many others. I'm just going to pause for a moment, and I'm just going to plug Lance Bass's Frosted Tips podcast. I am listening to it, and whether you know the boy band members he's interviewing or not, they all have really interesting stories. Okay, back to the comments. Now, going back to Syaoran, boy, did I want to slap some sense into him. I'm glad younger me believed in Wish Chan's word, because if I hadn't, I might have struggled to read the rest of the fic. And last but not least, I really appreciate the Kinomoto siblings moment. I really like how Wish-chan tries to occasionally incorporate heartfelt scenes between the many siblings in the story. After the Amamiya and Lee romance disasters, sibling relationships, or a lack thereof, rule the events in this fic. Heck, part of the conflict of the story comes from the OG Chang siblings sticking up for each other and going up against the world, just like siblings tend to do. Thank you for sharing. Can't wait till next time. Take care. Yeah, she really does a good job of just like recognizing sibling relationships in new trials.
You know what? It's never occurred to me before that there is so many sibling relationships in the story, and that besides the main arcing love story for the most, it really is a story about sibling relationships. Yeah, I never thought of that.
Like, just think about how strong the Kai and Miho story is. It's like he did everything just to repair his relationship with Miho, and even then, it has its rocky moments. Then when you fast forward to arc 4, you have the whole Fujitaka and Nina of it all.
Yeah, that's true.
They get some love too.
I can't wait till we get there. And then I would also like to say, if any of you haven't watched the show Fresh Off the Boat, I cannot recommend it enough. I am a Constance Wu fangirl. I love her to death. Highly, highly recommend. It is a really good show.
So thank you, Diana, for all of your comments. And Melanie and I, two girls who love language is words of affirmation. This is what we live for.
100%.